Hi, I'm Denise. Thank you for watching my video. Today I'm going to talk about S endings. I will tell you what I mean by S endings, or what are S endings. I will explain to you how to pronounce the S endings. There are 3 different ways to pronounce those endings. I will then tell you when to pronounce each one of the endings. I will give you some words to practice saying with me, using each of the S endings, and then I will give you some sentences to practice. So let me begin by telling you what I mean by S endings, or what are S endings. By S ending, I mean the letter S, which we add to the end of some words. And we add the letter S in 4 different cases. We can add the letter S to a word for regular plural nouns, for third person singular present tense verbs, for possessives, and for contractions. And let me explain each of those. When I say regular plural nouns, I simply mean when we add the letter S to a noun to make a plural. So here, I have 1 book, but if I have 3 books, I must add the letter S. Okay? This is a regular noun because to make it plural, I added S. Here's another example. I could have 1 tree or 3 trees. To make it plural, I added the letter S. And one more example. I could talk about 1 face or 3 faces. For each of these, I have simply added the letter S. These nouns here are not regular plurals. The word man becomes men in the plural. We do not add an S. And the word foot becomes feet in the plural. We do not add an S. So I'm not talking about these nouns. I'm talking about regular plural nouns. That's one case. Another time we add S to the end of a word is for third person singular present tense verbs. By third person singular, I simply mean a verb that is used with the subjects he, she, or it, or something similar. For example, instead of he, I could say my brother. Instead of she, I could say that woman. Instead of it, I could say the car. So for verbs, present tense verbs, which are used with these and similar subjects, we add the letter S. Here are some examples. She walks. I cannot say she walk. I must say she walks. With this subject, we always have an S. He plays. I must have an S. And the sun rises. This would be the subject it. So I must add an S to this verb. Another case when we add S to the end of words is for possessives. And that means that something belongs to somebody or something, or it is part of somebody or something. Here are some examples. The cat's fur. So this is the fur which is on the cat, which belongs to the cat. So I've had to add an apostrophe and the letter S. Here's another example. The boy's coat. So here too, this is the coat that belongs to the boy. I've had to add an apostrophe S. And one more example is Denise's desk. So it's the desk that I use or that belongs to me. So I've had to add an apostrophe S. And the 4th case where we add S to the end of some words is when we use contractions. A contraction means that we are putting 2 words together with an apostrophe and the letter S. The apostrophe takes the place of 1 or more letters. Here are some examples. It's. And here the apostrophe is either taking the place of the letter I in the word is, or the letters HA in the word has. So it's, IT apostrophe S, it is either it is or it has. Here's another example. He's. And here the apostrophe S is short for, again, either is or has. So I have he is or he has. Now I would like to talk about how to pronounce each one of the S endings. The S ending can be pronounced in 3 different ways. It can be pronounced as S, as Z, and as IZ. This sound, S, is a voiceless sound. That means that when I make that sound, my vocal cords do not vibrate. So if I put my fingers on my throat, I will not feel any vibration. This is S. No vibration here. S. This sound, on the other hand, does use the vocal cords. So when I make this sound, I can feel vibration here. This sound is Z. Z. And I can feel vocal cord vibration. The third sound also uses the Z, the same voiced sound here, but in addition to this third pronunciation adds a vowel sound. I have written I, so this is. Some speakers may make a different vowel sound, slightly different, but it's considered the same sound. Okay? And even the same speaker may have a slightly different vowel sound for different words. So I would like to add something here. I'm just adding the schwa vowel sound. I and schwa are both used. They're very similar. Speakers may use either one of these, but this is considered one pronunciation. So we have 3 pronunciations for the S ending. We have S, Z, and IZ. All of the S's in this column are pronounced with the S sound. All of the S's in this column are pronounced with the Z sound. And all of the S's in this column are pronounced with the IZ sound. Please listen while I pronounce these words for you. So this is S. Here we have books, walks, cats, and it's. Okay, S. In the second column, we have the Z sound. This is trees, plays, boys, he's. And in the third column we have is. This is faces, rises, Denise's. Notice in this third column that when I have added the letter S and when I get is, I am also getting an extra syllable on the word. So this word is face. It has 1 syllable. If you listen, or 1 beat. Face. Face. That's 1 syllable, 1 beat. Face. But as soon as I add an S to that word, it becomes faces. Now it has 2 syllables. Faces, faces, or 2 beats. So for these words here in this column, when I add 1 letter, the letter S, I'm only adding an S, 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 S. But I'm getting an extra syllable, an extra sound. I'm getting a vowel sound plus a sound for that S. So again, this is face, 1 syllable. This is faces, 2 syllables. Here, this word without the S is rise. It has 1 syllable. Rise, rise, rise. But as soon as I add that S, I get 2 syllables. Rises, rises. I'm getting is. The sound is, or 2 sounds is, for 1 letter. I added 1 letter, but I'm getting is. So without the S, it's rise. With the S, it's rises. Okay? And now for this one, Denise, which is already 2 syllables, Denise. becomes 3 syllables as soon as I add that S. Denises. Okay? So without the S, it's Denise. With the S, it's Denises. 3 syllables. Denises. So again, in this column, when I add an S, I'm actually getting another syllable. Okay? I'm getting a vowel sound, either one of these vowel sounds, plus the Z sound. All right? So we have 3 pronunciations for the letter S, for the S ending. We have S, which is a voiceless sound. We have Z, which is a voiced sound. And we have is, which is also voiced, but gives us an additional syllable on the word. Let me pronounce these words for you again, and please listen carefully to hear the different S endings, okay? Books, walks, cats, its, trees, plays, boys, he's, faces, rises, Denise's. All right? Let me send them across this way and try to listen for the different sounds, okay? Books, trees, faces. Books, trees, faces. Okay? Now I would like to explain when to pronounce each one of the S endings. The S ending sounds like is or is when the base word ends in an S-like sound. By base word, I mean the word that we are adding the S to. By S-like sound, I mean any one of these sounds. So if the base word ends in S, Z, Sh, J, Ch, or J, then when I add the S, it will sound like is. In some cases, uz. Here are some examples for you here. I do want to point out, and this is very important, that I'm talking about the last sound of a word, not the last letter of a word, okay? So here, I've written 2 words in which the last sound is S. If we look at the letters, we'll see, well, this one has the letter S, case, but this one does not. This ends in the letters C-E. But the sound here, the last sound, is S, okay? So when I add S, I will get is. Here's another example. These 2 words end in the Z sound. However, I do not mean the letter Z, I mean the sound Z. So if we look at this word, this is raise. It ends in the last 2 letters, S-E, but the last sound is Z, okay? So please keep that idea in mind. I'm talking about the last sound of a word and not the last letter of a word, okay? So let me pronounce these, please. For each of these 2 end in the sound S. This is case. This is voice. As soon as I add one letter, the letter S, the pronunciation of that ending now will be is. This was case, now it's cases. Voice becomes voices. Here these 2 words end in Z. This is raise and size. As soon as I add S, this is raises and sizes. Please listen for that extra syllable that we're getting, okay? This word ends in sh. This is wish. In this case, I have to add an es. When we have a word that ends in sh, we add es. Also, when we have words that end in ch, we add es instead of just one letter s, okay? But the sound of this is the same, is, as it is for these others, all right? So this sound is wish, is sh. This word is wish. With the es, it becomes wishes. This is beige. It ends in j. When I add s, it becomes beiges. This word is watch. It ends in ch. When I add es, it becomes watches. This word is college. It ends in j. College. When I add s, it becomes colleges. So it becomes 3 syllables. So the s ending sounds like is when the base word ends in any one of these s-like sounds. The s ending sounds like s when the base word ends in a voiceless sound other than the ones we've already seen. So if the base word ends in one of these voiceless sounds, then the s will sound like the voiceless s sound. Okay? Voiceless plus voiceless. This is p, t, k, f, and f. Here are some examples. Remember I said that the last sound must be one of these. I'm not talking about the last letters. So in particular, if we look at this one, the sound f, the letters are not the letter F, okay? I'm talking about the sound. Let me pronounce these for you. This is stop. It ends in the p sound. When I add the letter S, I get stops. This is light. It ends in the t sound. When I add S, I get lights. This is walk. It ends in the k sound. When I add S, I get walks. This is laugh. It ends in the f sound. When I add S, I get laughs. This is cloth. It ends in the f sound. When I add S, I get cloths. And please remember that with this sound, s, we do not get an extra syllable. There is no extra syllable. When we have words which end in the voiceless th sound, like the word cloth that we have just seen, and we add the letter s, we get the voiceless s sound. And when we have words which end in the voiced th sound, and we add the letter s, we get the voiced z sound. When we have some words, such as the word cloth, which ends in the voiceless th sound, here, cloth, and we add the letter s, some speakers keep these two sounds, the th and the sound for the s, as voiceless sounds. So they pronounce the plural, cloths, as cloths. Both of these last two sounds are voiceless. However, other speakers change this and make both of these last two sounds voiced. So we get cloths. So the plural of this word, this is cloth, voiceless, plus the letter s, can be pronounced as either cloths or cloths. In this pronunciation, both of these last two sounds are voiceless. In this pronunciation, both of these last sounds are voiced. Here's another example. With the word bath, the last sound is the voiceless th sound. When we add s, some speakers pronounce this as baths, so they keep these last two sounds voiceless. Other speakers change the two last sounds to voiced, and we get baths. Both of these are correct. We don't do this with every word ending in th, but with some words, Some speakers make those changes. The S ending sounds like Z when the base word ends in a voiced sound other than those that we have already seen. The voiced sounds are vowels, any vowel sound, B, D, G, V, V, M, N, M, O, R. So if the base word ends in any of those, then the S ending sounds like Z. Okay? Here are some examples. The word play ends in the vowel sound A. So when I add an S, it becomes plays. Cab ends in the B sound. When I add S, it becomes cabs. Bed ends in the D sound. When I add S, it becomes beds. Dog ends in the G sound. When I add S, it becomes dogs. Move ends in the V sound. When I add S, it becomes moves. Breathe ends in the V sound. When I add S, it becomes breathes. Team ends in the M sound. When I add S, it becomes teams. Fan ends in the N sound. When I add S, it becomes fans. Sing ends in the N sound. When I add S, it becomes sings. Bell ends in the O sound. When I add S, it becomes bells. Car ends in the sound. When I add S, it becomes cars. So for each of these words, because they end in these particular sounds, when I add the S ending sounds like Z. And please remember that there is no extra syllable for these words. No extra syllable. I would like to give you some words now to practice saying with me, and I'd like to quiz you a little bit on which S ending to pronounce. I would like you to practice saying the correct S ending for each of these words that I have on the bottom of the board. So what you should do is listen to the last sound of the word, and if the last sound is S-like, the S ending sounds like is. These are the S-like sounds. If the last sound of the word is a voiceless sound, other than these up here, then the S ending sounds like S, and these are the voiceless sounds. If the last sound of the word is a voiced sound, then the S ending sounds like Z. And these are the voiced sounds. So let's practice. Pie. What's the last sound? Okay, it's I, which is a vowel sound. So the S sounds like Z. Pies. Okay, race. Race. What kind of ending is on that? It's S, which is S-like, right? So the S is going to sound like races. It's going to sound like is. Cough. Cough. last sound is f. So coughs has a s sound. This is need. The last sound is d. So needs. What's the ending? It's z. This is leg. The last sound is g. So what's the ending? Legs. Z. This is wash. The last sound is sh. Okay, ready? Washes. Whoops. Washes. This is it. Last sound is t. So with the S, it's its. Its. This is pencil. The last sound is O. What's the ending? Pencils. Pencils. This is no. The last sound is O. So nose. This is open. The last sound is N. Ready? Opens. This is bring. The last sound is ng. Ready? Brings. This is path. The last sound is paths. Okay? Now for this side, this is confuse. The last sound is z. So confuses. Teach. The last sound is ch. So with the S, teaches. This is answer. The last sound is answers. I'm not left-handed, I can't write well this way. This is bathe. The last sound is the. Bathes. This is game. The last sound is m. Games. This is sky. The last sound is I. Skies. This is massage. The last sound is zh. Massages. This is make. The last sound is k. Makes. This is leave. The last sound is v. Leaves. This is tab. The last sound is b. Tabs. This is page. The last sound is j. Pages. This is keep. The last sound is p. Keeps. Finally, I'd like to give you some sentences to practice saying with me. I would like you to practice saying some sentences with me. I have underlined the S endings where they occur, and below each one I have written the pronunciation of that ending. So please practice saying these with me. Please repeat each sentence after me. I will read each sentence twice. The first time I'll read it slowly, and then the second time at a more natural pace. Okay? Please repeat. Sue keeps cakes for the parties in the coolers. Sue keeps cakes for the parties in the coolers. Okay? Sandy teaches at colleges and raises awareness of the issues. Sandy teaches at colleges and raises awareness of the issues. Okay, one more. Tim tears the covers of his books when he carries too many on Thursdays. Tim tears the covers of his books when he carries too many on Thursdays. Okay? So I hope those sentences helped. I hope this video was helpful to you. Thanks very much for watching. And if you want more practice with S-ending words, then please see my word list video. I have a word list video specifically about the S-endings, and I also have many other videos. I have videos, as a matter of fact, for the S and Z sounds. So if you have any questions about that, for example, in this word, awareness, it ends in a S sound, but it's not included in this S-ending video. Please take a look at my other videos. Thanks for watching.